My name's Alan. I'm 41 years old, and I live in Rochester, Minnesota, the kind of town where people wave but never really know you. I work maintenance at the local hospital, fixing what breaks, keeping things running behind the scenes. You learn a lot about people doing that kind of work, mostly how invisible you become when they don't need you. Anyway, I was with this girl, Maggie, 36, beautiful in that kind of wild, unpredictable way. She worked in HR for one of the biotech firms out in the tech park. We met at a 4th of July cookout 2 years back, and at first, I didn't think I stood a chance. She had that kind of energy that fills a room. Me? I'm the kind of guy who watches the fireworks from the parking lot so I can beat the traffic on the way out. But somehow, she noticed me. It wasn't a fairy tale, not at first. She said she liked how grounded I was. Said I made her feel safe. That was her word, safe. I guess at the time, it felt like a compliment. And I gave her everything I had. Time, love, weekends fixing up her porch, helping her dad replace the alternator on his truck, birthday trips, anniversary dinners, little notes on her mirror when she had tough days. I'm not rich, not flashy, but I know how to take care of people. Or at least I thought I did. The first crack in the wall came a couple months back when Maggie started hanging out more with her friend Renee. Renee worked in PR, wore $1,000 smiles, and had opinions on everything. I never liked her, but I never said anything because Maggie swore she was just misunderstood. Then one night, I picked Maggie up for one of their wine and vent nights. She got in the car, quiet, lips tight, that looked like someone just told her something she didn't want to hear, but couldn't ignore. I asked her if everything was okay. She just said she was tired. I should have known. 2 weeks later, Maggie sits me down, says we need to talk. She says things haven't felt right. That maybe we're just in different places. And I swear this part hit like a punch I never saw coming. She tells me Renee said she could do better, that I'm not in her league. Like it was a fact. Like I was some leftover store-brand cereal she's been settling for until someone reminded her she could afford the real thing. I didn't get mad. I just sat there, trying to hold my face together while the one person I'd built my future around told me she was stepping off the train because her friend thought the seats weren't plush enough. I told her okay, that if that's how she felt, I wouldn't stand in her way. And that was that. Or so I thought. It was the same night. Not a week later. Not even a day. Just a few hours after she walked out of my apartment with that look on her face like she'd finally done something bold. Like she was free. I didn't drink that night. Didn't go out. Just sat on the couch staring at a little box in my hands. The one I'd picked up 2 weeks earlier when I thought I was about to propose to the love of my life. Platinum band. Round cut diamond. Took me 3 extra shifts and a small loan I hadn't told anyone about. Funny how life spins around you while you're sitting still. Around 10, there's a knock. I knew it was her before I even stood up. I don't know how, call it instinct. Call it the part of you that recognizes heartbreak, even through a door. I opened it, and there she was. Mascara halfway down her cheeks. Hair up in that messy way. She wore it when she didn't want to try anymore. She didn't say anything right away. Just stood there like maybe she was expecting me to rescue her from the consequences of her own decision. She said she'd made a mistake. That Renee didn't mean it that way. That she just needed space and perspective. That she didn't mean to say I wasn't in her league. She just kept talking, and I didn't say much. I just reached behind me, pulled out that little box, opened it slowly, not for drama, but for clarity. I looked her in the eyes, held it out between us, and said it plain as day. You don't deserve this. And then I walked past her, left her standing in the hallway with everything she thought she wanted and none of what she'd thrown away. She started crying harder. I could hear her calling my name, begging for just 5 more minutes to talk, to explain. But the thing is, some truths don't need a second draft. Sometimes the first cut is the only one that counts. I didn't stop, didn't look back. And as I turned the corner and the elevator door slid open, something settled in my chest. Something heavy, but sure. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing up for myself. When I got back to my place, the box was still in my hand. I hadn't even realized I'd brought it with me. I set it down on the kitchen counter like it might explode if I wasn't careful. You know, it's wild. You think an engagement ring is just a thing, a shiny little promise. But in that moment, it felt heavier than it had any right to be. Like it was soaked in everything I gave and never got back. I stood there for a while, staring at it like it was going to give me answers. Then I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same tired eyes, same man who'd fixed her car when it wouldn't start in January, who held her when she got laid off last year, who brought her soup when she had COVID and didn't complain once about getting sick myself. And yet, apparently, not in her league. I laughed, quiet bitter, not the kind that comes from humor, The kind that sneaks out when your body's too tired to cry. What does that even mean, anyway? Not at her league. As if life is some dating app where people get assigned tiers. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't corporate. I didn't vacation in Tulum or have a six-pack or post couple selfies every weekend. But I showed up every damn time. And somehow that was less than enough. I opened the medicine cabinet, tossed out the floss and some old cough drops, and shoved the ring box to the back. Out of sight. Not forgotten. Just paused. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just laid on the couch in the clothes I'd worn all day, watching the ceiling fan spin and counting regrets. Not about leaving. Not about what I said. Just about how long it took me to realize I was always the one fighting for us. And she was only fighting for the version of herself she thought she lost. 3 days passed. Quiet ones. No calls. No visits. Just me, a full pot of coffee, and the low hum of loneliness that settles into a place once someone's left. I didn't mind it, to be honest. Silence has a way of telling the truth. No one else will. Then, on the 4th morning, I got a text. Not from Maggie. From Renee. Yeah, that Renee. It popped up just after 8 a.m. I was halfway through my second cup, trying to talk myself into doing laundry when her name lit up my phone. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But nope, it was her. Short message. Almost weirdly polite. Can we talk? Just that. I didn't respond right away. I sat there staring at it, half thinking it was some kind of setup. I hadn't spoken a word to that woman since the night Maggie dumped me. Or really before that either. We were never exactly close. I was her charity project. The guy she tolerated for her friend's sake. Eventually, I replied, "Why?" She didn't hesitate. "Because you deserve to know what really happened." And just like that, everything tilted. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. I chose the seat facing the door. Habit, I guess. Wanted to see it coming this time. Renee walked in wearing sunglasses like she was hiding from the sun or maybe from herself. She spotted me, gave a tight nod, and sat down across from me without ordering anything. That alone told me she wasn't here to play games. What she said next made my stomach flip. She told me Maggie didn't dump me because of something she said. Not exactly. It was worse. Apparently, Maggie had been talking about leaving me for a while. Testing the waters. Flirting with the idea like someone dipping their toe in cold water before diving in. And Renee, for all her flaws, had told her to stop stringing me along. She told Maggie, if you don't think he's enough, let him go before you ruin him. But Maggie had twisted it. Said Renee told her I wasn't in her league just to justify what she already wanted to do. She made Renee the villain so she wouldn't have to feel like the bad guy. I just sat there, taking it all in. Renee went quiet after that. Reached in her purse, pulled out her phone, and showed me a screenshot. A conversation between them. The actual message. You're playing with fire, Mags. Alan doesn't deserve this. If you're not in it, at least be honest. And right underneath it, Maggie replying, he'll be fine. Guys like him always land on their feet. Guys like me. That phrase echoed in my head like a bell you don't want to hear. After Renee left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, maybe more. I don't really know. Time sort of folded in on itself. I wasn't angry. Not the yelling, break stuff kind of angry. It was something slower, sadder. Like my body had finally caught up to what my gut had known for months. I kept thinking about that line. Guys like him always land on their feet. It wasn't just cold. It was revealing. See, when someone says that, what they really mean is, he'll survive so I don't have to feel bad about gutting him. They dress up abandonment in logic. Wrap betrayal in silk and call it kindness. And then something else crept in. Something I didn't expect. I started remembering. Not just Maggie. Before her, there was Sarah, the one who ghosted me right after I helped her move into a new apartment. Took me a whole weekend, I pulled back, and she was gone 2 days later. No explanation. Before Sarah, there was Elise. The one who said I was too steady. Like consistency was a character flaw. Like showing up was boring. And before Elise, there were others. Same theme. Same script. Different names. I'd spent my entire dating life being the one women leaned on when their world was chaotic and walked away from the second they found stability boring. I wasn't their partner. I was their life raft. Once they reached shore, they never looked back. Maggie just happened to be the last one to do it with paperwork in my jacket pocket. And the thing is, I still had the ring. That next morning, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I stood in front of my closet, really looked at it. Not just reached in and grabbed the same jacket I always wore. I stared at the rows of button-downs Maggie had accidentally shrunk in the wash. The sneakers she said made me look out of touch. The hoodies I only wore when she was out of town because she hated how lazy they looked. You ever have a moment where you realize your life isn't yours anymore? Not in the big, dramatic sense. Not like someone stormed in and took it. No, it's quieter than that. Like a slow leak in a tire. One day you wake up and realize you've been deflating for years. So I started taking it back. First thing I did was grab 2 garbage bags. One for the stuff that didn't feel like me anymore. Not just clothes, but the expectations sewn into them. The second bag? For everything I kept because she liked it, not because I did. A coffee mug from some wine festival I never wanted to go to. That overpriced throw blanket she insisted matched the couch. The scented candles that made my apartment smell like the perfume aisle at Macy's. I tossed them in one by one. And it wasn't out of spite. It was release. Like shaking someone else's voice out of your ears after hearing it echo too long. Then I opened a drawer I hadn't touched since last Christmas. Inside was a photo of us, smiling in front of a cabin we'd rented in Ely, up north. I remember that weekend. She spent most of it on her phone, fighting with Renee. I spent most of it making cocoa and pretending not to notice. But in the photo, we looked like everything was perfect. The kind of photo you frame so your parents stop asking questions. I put face down, left it there, and I don't know what came over me. I went into the kitchen and opened the drawer where I kept the receipts. All of them. I'm that guy. The one who keeps proof. Tax reasons, I always said. But really? It was because I liked knowing what things were worth. That's where I found it. The receipt for the ring. $4,389.76. Not cheap. Not extravagant. Just enough to say, I see you. I believe in us. Just enough to hurt when it didn't matter. I sat down at the table, ring in one hand, receipt in the other. And I laughed. Really laughed. Not bitter this time, just amazed. Amazed at how much of myself I'd given to someone who thought I was a safe bet. I was never a bet. I was the win she didn't recognize. So I called the jeweler. Told him I never gave the ring. Asked if they took returns. He asked if it had been more than 30 days. I said yes. He paused and said, well, store credit maybe. I paused too. Then I said, good. Because I'm ready to spend it on something better. 2 days after I returned the ring, or traded it, I guess, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in years. I booked a trip. Just a long weekend. Sort of. Nothing fancy. A cabin by Lake Superior, just outside Grand Marais. No signal. No one to impress. Just cold air, tall trees, and enough quiet to hear myself think again. You'd be surprised how hard it is to remember who you are when you've spent years being who someone else needed you to be. I packed light, threw a duffel bag in the truck, filled the thermos, and drove north with an old playlist humming through the speakers. Songs I hadn't listened to since before Maggie, before all of it. It felt like I was driving into myself again. I got there just after sunset. The sky was burning down into the lake, and I stood on the porch with my coffee, breathing in air that hadn't passed through someone else's opinion first. That night, in that creaky little cabin, I wrote something in a notebook I found in the nightstand drawer. Nothing poetic, just 5 words. I was always good enough. Then I underlined it. The thing about betrayal, real, clean betrayal, is it doesn't just make you question someone else. It makes you question yourself. You start wondering if maybe you were too much, or not enough, or too quiet, too accommodating, too predictable. And that's how you end up shrinking. But out there, under a sky full of stars too bright for denial, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Clarity. Maggie wasn't better than me. She was just louder. And people like Renee, like all the others who called me safe, they weren't seeing me. Not really. They were seeing someone who didn't threaten them. Someone who didn't chase flash or wear confidence like a costume. Someone who loved quietly, without needing to be seen for it. But quiet love is still love. And I'm done apologizing for it. Let them chase league tables. I'll build my own damn stadium. It was a week after the cabin trip when Maggie texted again. No hambre. No apology. Just, can we meet? I want to talk. I've been thinking. And just like that, the universe handed me a test I didn't ask for. One last exam on whether I really meant what I wrote in that notebook. Whether I was going to stay standing or fold the second she blinked in my direction. So I said yes. Not because I wanted her back. Because I wanted to see her one last time as the man who survived her. We met at the same diner we used to go to after late movies. She chose the booth near the window. I walked in, nodded at her, and sat across without much ceremony. There was a familiarity in the air, but not warmth. More like when you visit a house you used to live in and realize it's smaller than you remember. She looked different. Or maybe I just wasn't looking at her through the same eyes. She launched into the usual. Said she missed me. Said things felt wrong without me around. That she was confused, overwhelmed, listening to the wrong people. That Renee twisted things, that her own doubts got louder than her feelings. I listened. I really did. Because part of healing is hearing someone out, even when you already know your answer. And when she finally stopped, looked at me with those watery eyes like she wanted me to fix something broken, I didn't get angry. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "You're not a bad person, but you were a bad partner." And I kept showing up for someone who kept leaving. She flinched at that, not because it was cruel, but because it was true. She asked if we could start over, said she was willing to do whatever it took. I pulled out my wallet, not to pay, but to slide across the receipt, the one for the ring. She stared at it, confused, then looked back at me. I told her I'd returned it. Got store credit. Said I was planning to use it soon. Maybe a new watch, or something for myself. Something that stays. Then I said the thing I came there to say. You didn't lose me because you listened to Renee. You lost me because I realized I didn't need to beg to be seen. I stood up, left a few bills on the table, and walked out without turning around. Closure isn't something someone hands you. It's something you walk away from. Head up, heart intact, dignity unshaken. And that's exactly what I did. You'd think that after a scene like that, after handing someone a receipt for the life you almost gave them, there'd be some dramatic release, some wave of victory. But peace doesn't make a sound when it walks in. No confetti, no applause, just stillness. And God, it was beautiful. The day after that meeting with Maggie, I woke up without dread for the first time in months. It wasn't joy, not yet, but it was absence. Absence of confusion, of doubt, of the ache that used to sit heavy in my chest every time I opened my eyes. I made coffee, in my mug, the one I liked, not the one she bought for the aesthetic. I sat in silence, didn't scroll, didn't reach for noise, just sat there, sipping quietly, feeling the weight of nobody else's expectations on my back. It felt foreign and holy. Later that week, I walked into the jewelry store again. Same clerk behind the counter. She smiled, almost nervously. Maybe she remembered me from the last time. The guy returning a ring with a look that said everything without a single word. I didn't waste time, just asked to see the watches. She laid out a few, all shiny, all expensive, all begging for attention. Then she brought out one that was different. Simple, black leather strap, minimalist face. No flash. That one, I said, immediately, because it didn't scream for the room's approval. It just was. I wore it out of the store. Didn't wait for a box or receipt. Didn't post it online. Didn't text anyone. That watch wasn't about marking a moment. It was about reclaiming time. My time, all the hours I gave to people who didn't see me. All the weekends spent proving my worth to people who never questioned theirs. All the late nights convincing someone that I was solid ground, only for them to call it boring. That watch was a quiet promise to myself. Never again. Not to be someone's backup plan. Not to be the safety net they cut when they think they can fly without you. Not to be the lesson they learn too late. That night, I looked at my reflection before bed. Same face. But this time, there was a softness around the edges. Like I wasn't holding my breath anymore. I touched the watch on my wrist and smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because finally I was. It's been 3 months now. 3 whole months since I stood in that diner and told Maggie what she couldn't bring herself to see. Since I left the ring and the begging and the ache behind. And the craziest part? I don't miss her. Not really. Sometimes I miss the idea of her, the version I'd built in my head. The woman who saw me, who laughed at my dumb jokes, and leaned into me during movies like I was a lighthouse in a storm. But that wasn't her. That was me, projecting hope onto someone who never held it steady. And that's what no one tells you. When a relationship ends, it's not always the person you mourn. It's the dream, the promise, the could-be-been that never was. I've been rebuilding, not in any flashy way. I didn't hit the gym for a revenge body. Didn't dive into dating apps or post vague quotes about strength. I just lived, started jogging again. Early mornings before the sun comes up. Just me, the pavement, and the sound of my own breath. Started fixing things around the apartment that I'd put off for months. Not to impress anyone, just because I wanted to feel like things worked again. I also finally picked up that camera I bought a year ago, but never used. Took it out to Quarry Hill Park last weekend and spent an hour photographing frost on empty benches. There was something therapeutic about it, framing the cold, making it still. I ran into Renee again, randomly, outside the co-op. We chatted like old classmates, not like two people who'd stood on opposite sides of a very ugly line. She said she'd cut Maggie off for good. Said something about boundaries about learning to stop saving people who only want sympathy, not accountability. I nodded, understood more than she probably realized. And you know what? I'm not bitter. Maggie didn't break me. She revealed me. Revealed the parts of me I'd been keeping small. The worth I'd been discounting. The boundaries I'd let blur in the name of love. She didn't ruin my life. She rerouted it. And if I saw her tomorrow, I wouldn't look away. I wouldn't sneer. I wouldn't even say you lost a good man. I wouldn't need to. Because dignity, real dignity, doesn't need to be announced. It's felt. It's quiet. It shows up when you look in the mirror and finally recognize the person looking back. And me? I recognize him now.